Hey folks, my name is Brian and you're watching Survival on Purpose. Today's video is going to be about the tulip poplar. Stick with me. Okay, so today's video I'm going to do a quick thing about a very common resource in the eastern woodlands in Georgia and everywhere else, at least in the east. It's a tulip poplar tree. We're looking at one here, another one behind me here, and I'll give you a look at the top here, one way you can identify them. It's winter, so there are no leaves on them, so they're really identifiable by their leaves, but they have little flowers or leaf, some kind of formations on them. They look kind of like tulips, and that's why they call them tulip poplar. So let me readjust the camera. I'll see if I can get you a shot of what's up in the trees. Okay, one thing about tulip poplars is they're generally going to be pretty tall, straight trees. And if you look up there, and I'll see if I can zoom in on it. Got a lot of sunshine here, but you can see little look like almost like flowers on them. Right, there's one there. That's what's left after most of them have shed. And those will actually be kind of yellowish colored when they bloom. And that's why they call them tulip poplars. Let's take a look at the bark real quick. That's another way to help you identify it. Okay, if you can see the bark here, you can see it's pretty much got lines that run up and down in it. And it's reasonably smooth. Younger ones are even smoother. It's kind of splotchy, so, you know, I understand that there's a lot of trees that look sort of like that, but once you get used to seeing it, when you put all the other factors together, it helps you identify it. Okay, so one of the characteristics of tulip poplars is that they seem to shed their branches, and they drop branches a lot. That's why you'll notice there's usually not a lot of branches lower on the tree because they fall off. And one of the great things about this, here's one that fell. You can usually tell it's, for the size, it's going to be pretty light. And then let me get a close up here and I'll show you another thing you can do, how you can tell, and also how you can harvest some resources from a tulip poplar. One of the characteristics of tulip poplar is the bark is very fibrous. You know, usually peel down pretty good. The inner bark is very fibrous. And you can just peel that off in long strips and make cordage out of it or use it for fire starting. Okay, so here's a down poplar tree that's been down, I don't know, at least 6-8 months. I know that because I cut a chunk out of it a few months ago, right there, to make a bow drill set. So it's pretty dry. The last time I checked it was several months ago and the bark was all wet, but let's have a look at this and I'll show you, maybe I can give you a little better detail on what's great about poplar. So this has been down quite a while. I'll get a little close up here for you. And you can see it's very dry, but the inner bark you can see is very fibrous. Like this here, kind of peels off. Flex some of this up. This is almost to the point of rotting. You see the inner bark just flaking off there like that. You can peel this off, collect it, put it in your fire kit. Makes a great bird's nest and great tinder. And this is kind of wet, but it'll dry out. See that whole piece there comes off. It's great, just collect some of this up. You can see that on the underside is especially wet, but it will dry out. And it's just got all these fibers here. You can use them to make cordage when it's green and when it's wet. When it's dead, let it dry out. It makes great fire starting. Okay, so another thing you'll notice about dead poplar, it's very dry. It dries, it just snaps, and you see when you pull that off, see the bark just strips off like that. Take a small piece and just strip the bark off. And again, this is a little damp, but it will definitely dry out. And you can just peel all that bark off, and it helps you start your fire. And then also the wood itself, it's so dry when it snaps like that. It burns very quickly, but it burns very hot, so you can actually use it to get a quick, get a head start on the fire also, so you can get your larger, more dense wood burning. But if I see something like this down, I'm gonna go ahead and grab it up and collect up some of it. Notice up here, this bark's kind of split out, so it doesn't peel as well. It's also a little drier. The drier it gets, the harder it is to peel. But sometimes it helps to break it. It'll help the bark to come loose. You can peel it all off. and put that in your bag. Now this again is going to have to dry out before it's really useful, but that's okay. When I need it, I'll have it. Okay, so got some of this tulip poplar bark here that took off that down tree, and it's still slightly damp, but what we're going to do is go ahead and take some of this inner bark that just shreds off of here like this and try to separate as much of that as possible from the outer bark, and go ahead and shred it up, process it however you want to put it, see if we can get it to catch a spark. Again, it's pretty damp, so it's not going to be optimal, but it's probably what you're going to encounter in the real world, so it's really going to be a good test of the viability of this tinder, or this resource, I guess, for tinder in the real world. And I noticed that part of it's drier than the other, so I'm going to go ahead and cut off part of it here that is maybe a little drier than the other. And take my bag, put the finer stuff here. And the goal here is just to get it as fine as possible. And you do that just by basically just grabbing, holding, and working it back and forth, and just coming up with just as fine of hairy kind of. You're going to get as many of these little fibers as you can in here. Just keep pulling apart. Just process it and process it and process it. Because even though it's kind of damp, if you get it fine enough, then maybe it'll work for you. And when I say kind of damp, you know, it's pretty dry, but I can still feel just a slight amount of moisture in it. I know I have heard Dave Canterbury, I believe it was, talking about if you put it on your cheek, if it feels cool, it's kind of moist. It doesn't really have too cool a feeling. It just does, to me, feel a little moist. But I'm going to keep working at it, processing it, and get a pretty good size bit. So this is pretty fine here. Keep working at this, and you know, I'll get back to you in a minute. I can tell you, you got to be patient a lot of times when you're dealing with stuff like this. So we're going to go ahead and just keep looking for the real fine inner bark that peels off the inside and work it down. So let me pause the camera for a minute and go ahead and work this out a little more, and I'll get right back with you. Okay, so again, what you're looking for is this little really fine inner bark that just kind of peels off, and there's a thin layer of it, and it's very fine. And if you break this stuff apart, you can actually, you know, peel it out a little better. And you just want to get the thinnest little pieces there. So okay, so anyway, I've got a little pile here I've been working on. And again, just as give you a close-up here, what you want to do when you're processing it is just take it, just basically tear it and you know, keep working with it, pulling it apart, picking at it. And you can use a bigger piece than this. I'm just showing you, till you get these really fine little hairs in there. And that's the goal, what you're looking for. So when you get it processed down to tiny pieces like that, you can make yourself a bundle. And you can use this a couple ways. If it's dry enough, you can go ahead and strike a spark directly into it, which we can try. And if it's just a little bit more damp, you can use it as part of a tinder bundle and put a piece of glowing char material that you've already got an ember going in, or any kind of an ember from a, you know, primitive fire method or friction fire or whatever, and that'll just help intensify, and you can blow it into a flame. So you got some pretty small stuff here. At the same time, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and shred some of this bigger stuff here a little bit, just so you'll have something to keep the flame going once you get it. So you can have it, you know, maybe not quite as finely shredded, something that's going to still catch a flame, but it's going to have a little more substance to it, so it'll hold the flame a little longer. And you don't have to get too crazy with that. If you're making a tinder bundle, you definitely want some of this. You want this kind of on the outside and with the finer stuff on the inside, so that you'll have something of substance to catch a flame when you put it in there. So we're going to go ahead and take this, and let's have a little spot here and see if we get him to catch a spark from a ferro rod. And you want to kind of, if you're going to do something like this, you really want to fluff it up. You don't want it packed together. What you want is as much surface area as possible. Give yourself as best chance as possible. Greatest opportunity, just dump that little stuff on top there. The greatest opportunity to catch a spark. So I'm my trusty old hickory here, ferro rod. Let's see what happens. There we go. We got a flame, and it's really that simple. And again, this was just a little bit damp. You can see the smoke coming. That's really steam mostly coming off of it, not smoke, because of the moisture in it evaporating. But you can see that it caught pretty well, and just took a minute to shred it up. So there you go. Well, hope this has been helpful. It's another natural fire resource you'll find in the eastern woodlands in Georgia and maybe throughout America. It's tulip poplar. Great fire resource. And if you've seen any of my videos, you know how much I like fire. So hope this has been helpful. Once again, thanks for watching. Thanks for leaving comments below if you got anything to add. That's one good thing about YouTube. Y'all get to share our knowledge. I appreciate your giving it a thumbs up if you like it. Share it with your friends if you think they'll like it. Subscribe and all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. My name is Brian. You're watching Survival on Purpose. Remember, survival is not an accident. So be prepared. See you next time.